Hey guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today I want to share with you some middle grade books that I am very much looking forward to coming out in the first 3 months of 2021. All right, so I've never really followed new releases, but I got to looking into some of the things coming out this next year, and there's some really good stuff coming out this year, guys. So I have a huge list of books that I'm so excited about. So I had to kind of whittle it down. So I decided to just do books coming out January, February, March. And then on top of that, I decided to split it into middle grade and adult YA. So for people who just don't really care about middle grade, you don't have to watch it. And for people who are really excited about middle grade, I don't have to feel bad that I'm like just going on and on and on about all the middle grade books that I love. So let's get into this list. I don't even know how many are on here, but we're just going to go with it. I have my list here. I probably just going to be reading synopsises to you because I don't know a whole lot about a lot of these books. They just sound good. So first up, these are in release date order. So starting with the earliest and I'll end with latest. All right. First up is Root Magic by Eden Royce. This comes out January 5th, 2021. So it's about twins, Jez and Jay, and school integration is arriving in South Carolina in 1963, and their grandma just passed away. The local police won't stop harassing their family. It's just a mess. And then their uncle, who is named Doc, tells them that he is going to start training them in root work. So root work is, Jez, it says Jez and Jay have been, oh my goodness, I cannot talk. It says Jez and Jay have always been fascinated by the African American folk magic that has been the legacy of their family for generations, especially the curious potions and powders Doc and Gran would make for the people on their island. But Jez soon finds out that her family's true power goes far beyond small charms and elixirs, and not a moment too soon. Because when evil, both natural and supernatural, comes to show itself in town, it's going to take every bit of magic she has inside to see her through. So it's like a historical fantasy. I just think this is going to be amazing. All right, so that is the first one. The next one coming out is 365 Days to Alaska by Kathy Carr. This comes out January 19th. And this has to do with a girl who grew up in Alaska completely off the grid. She loves it. She hunts. She takes correspondence classes. She says she doesn't mind not having electricity or running water. She loves the nature and everything. But then her parents get divorced, and her sisters have to move with their mom to Connecticut and live in the suburbs of Connecticut. And she has a really hard time adjusting to that, and she hates it. And the only thing getting her through is her dad's promise that if she spends a full year there, then at the end of the year, she can come back to Alaska with him. So it's kind of about her journey in accepting differences. At first, surviving the year feels impossible, it says. Middle school is nothing like the wilderness, and she doesn't connect with anyone until she befriends a crow living behind her school. And if this wild creature has made a life for itself in the suburbs, then maybe Rigel can too. So that just sounded up my alley. I love kind of find yourself stories, especially middle grade ones. All right, this next one is called While I Was Away. It's by Waka T. Brown, and it comes out on January 26th. This is a memoir from a debut author, and it takes readers on a journey to Japan, where she was sent as a child in the 1980s to reconnect with her family roots. It says, when 12-year-old Waka's parents suspect she can't understand basic Japanese, they make a drastic decision to send her to Tokyo to live for several months with her strict grandmother. She's forced to go there for her entire summer vacation. And when she goes there, she has always been like the straight A student in Kansas. But then when she goes to Japan, she's really struggling, and she feels like she's the dumb kid. And she's just having a really hard time fitting in. And so, yeah. So it's kind of a story about finding where home is and all of that. Sounds really interesting. I really like reading middle grade memoirs. So yeah. All right, the next one that I have on my list is The Year I Flew Away by Marie Arnold, and this comes out on February 2nd. And it says, in this magical middle grade novel, 10-year-old Gabrielle finds out that America isn't the place she imagined when she moves from Haiti to Brooklyn with the help of a clever witch. Gabrielle becomes the most perfect American, but will she lose herself in the process? So it's set in 1985, and it follows Gabrielle, who is a 10-year-old. She moves from Haiti to America, but her parents haven't been able to join her yet. She hates Brooklyn, similar to these other books. She's not fitting in. This is a very common theme in middle grade. And then she meets a witch. And the witch, basically, it sounds like the Little Mermaid. The witch makes her the perfect American. So she can speak English and all this stuff. Speak English perfectly and all of that. But she soon realizes how much she has given up to try to fit in. And along with her two new friends, one of them a talking rat, she takes on the witch in an epic battle to reverse the spell. So, yeah, it just sounds like The Little Mermaid, except set in 1985 in Brooklyn, and not having to do with mermaids at all. All right, the next one, same release date, February 2nd, A Place to Hang the Moon by Kate Albus. You guys, this one has a similar, not premise, but it follows children who are fleeing London during the Blitz during World War II, similar to The War That Saved My Life, which I love. And so this one, it follows a group of siblings, Anna, Edmund, and William. They're 9, 11, and 12, and they just lost their grandmother. And she was their guardian, and she left like no will telling them like where they were supposed to go, making no provisions for them. And so her lawyer basically decides that instead of trying to find them a guardian, he's just going to ship them out with the rest of the school children that are fleeing the country and hope that they find somewhere to live out in the country, instead of making official plans. So it's all about them trying to stay together and find somebody who's going to take care of them. And so they end up with a bunch of different foster families. None of them are really like working out. They're cruel. They're, whatever. But then they find a librarian who is living in a library, and she takes them in. The only caveat is that her German husband, nobody knows where he is. And so it makes for a very kind of tumultuous circumstance. The whole premise of this just screams, Amanda needs to read me. And so, yeah, that one I cannot wait for. All right, next we have The Mysterious Disappearance of Aiden S. by David Levithan. This also comes out on February 2nd. All right, and this one has to do with Aiden, who disappeared for 6 days and completely disappeared. And when he comes back, he tells a story about where he went, and nobody believes him. And his brother wants to believe him, but he also doesn't want anybody else like thinking he's crazy for believing his brother. Yeah, so it just kind of has to do with them and figuring out what really happened to him and all that. Sounds really fun. And it seems like it might have a good sibling relationship, which I'm all about in middle grade. So yeah. All right. Another one coming out February 2nd. This is a hot day for book releases, guys. This next one I am so excited about. Alan Gratz is coming out with a 9/11 book. He writes a lot of historical fiction. I've read Refugee, but he writes, oh my goodness, I can't talk. He writes a ton, and I really need to read more. But this one is called Ground Zero, and it is about 9/11. It's September 11th, 2001. Brandon, a 9-year-old boy, goes to work for the day with his dad at the World Trade Center. And then when the two planes hit the towers, Brandon and his father are trapped inside. Can they escape, and what will the world be like when they do? And then also, in present-day Afghanistan, Rashima is an 11-year-old girl who is used to growing up in the shadow of war, but she has dreams of peace and unity. When she ends up harboring a wounded young American soldier, she and her entire family are put in mortal danger. But Rashmina also learned something surprising about the roots of this endless war. With his trademark skill and insight, Alan Gratz delivers an action-packed, powerful story of two kids whose life connect in unexpected ways and reminds us how the past and present are always more linked than we think. I'm sorry. That sounds so amazing, so perfect. I'm going to read it, and then I'll probably make my kids read it because that just sounds so good. All right, next we have Of a Feather by Dana Lorentz. This is releasing on February 9th. And this one has to do with a girl and an owl, which I love. So the great horned owl Rufus is 8 months old and still can't hunt when his mother is hit by a car. He discovers just how dangerous the forest can be. Renee has given up on adults and learned how to care for herself, a good thing since she's sent to live with an aunt she's never met. Yet this aunt has a wonderful secret. She's a falconer who agrees to help Renee catch an injured passage hawk in the wild and rehabilitate it. When Renee traps bedraggled Rufus, his eyes lock onto her heart and they form a powerful friendship. But can Rufus learn to trust in the outside world and fly free? And can Renee open her heart enough to truly soar? I love it. So one of the things that I noticed in going through the releases this year is there's a lot of middle grade books coming out about birds. They have to do with birds and flying and all that. All right, next we have These Unlucky Stars by Gillian McDunn. I read Caterpillar Summer by Gillian McDunn this year and loved it. It got 5 stars for me, and this one sounds like it's going to be just as good, if not better. This has to do with Annie, who has always been the odd one out in her family. Her practical dad and brother just don't understand the way she thinks. Ever since her mother left a few years ago, Annie has been reluctant to get close to anyone. When a poor decision lands Annie in hot water, she must make amends by watching her elderly neighbor's weird dog all summer. As Annie begins to connect with her neighbor Gloria, it becomes clear that Gloria won't be able to live on her own for much longer. But it's this brief and important friendship that gives Annie the confidence to let people in and see how rich life can be when you decide to make your own luck and chart your own path to happiness. So I love books about kids being friends with elderly people. I think that's awesome. And this whole thing just sounds really, really good. Another one by an author that I have read and loved that is coming out is The Elephant in the Room by Holly Goldberg Sloan. I cannot wait for this one. It has to do, it's been almost a year since Scylla's mother traveled halfway around the world to Turkey, hoping to secure the immigration paperwork that would allow her to return to her family in the United States. The long separation is almost impossible for Scylla to withstand, but things change when Scylla accompanies her father, who is a mechanic, outside their Oregon town to fix a truck. There, behind an enormous stone wall, she meets a grandfatherly man who only months before won the state lottery. Their new alliance leads to the rescue of a circus elephant named Vita, and then to a friendship with an unusual boy named Matteo, proving that comfort and hope can come in the most unlikely of places. That just sounds so good to me. And the cover is beautiful. I really like Holly Goldberg Sloan's writing. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even say that one and These Unlucky Stars both come out March 2nd. All right. And then I have three more, and they all come out on March 16th. Okay, the first one that comes out March 16th is The One Thing You'd Save by Linda Sue Park. This sounds amazing. It says, if your house were on fire, what one thing would you save? This explores the answers to the provocative question in linked poems that capture the diverse voices of a middle school class. It's illustrated with black and white art. Okay, when a teacher asks her class, what one thing would you save in an emergency? Some students know the answer right away. Others come to their decisions more slowly. And some change their minds when they hear their classmates' responses. A lively dialogue ignites as the students discover unexpected facets of one another and themselves. With her ear for authentic dialogue and knowledge of tweens' priorities and emotions, Linda Sue Park brings the varied voices of an inclusive classroom to life through carefully honed, engaging, and instantly accessible verse. So this is a book written in verse. And that just sounds so that just sounds like such an awesome premise for a book in verse. All right. Second to last one, we have Soul Lanterns by Shaw Kuski. And this also comes out on the 16th. This is a story about a young Japanese girl who is trying to understand the historic and tragic bombing of Hiroshima. And so it follows 12-year-old Nozomi. She lives in the Japanese city of Hiroshima, and she wasn't even born when the bombing took place. But every year, Nozomi joins her family at the lantern floating ceremony to honor those lost in the bombings. People write the names of their deceased loved ones along with messages of peace on paper lanterns and set them floating on the river. This year, Nozomi realizes that her mother always releases one lantern with no name. She begins to ask questions, and when complicated stories of loss and loneliness unfold, Nozomi and her friends come up with a creative way to share their loved ones' experiences by opening people's eyes to the struggles they all keep hidden. The project teaches the entire community new ways to show compassion. And so, yeah, this is just like an exploration of the bombing in Hiroshima in 1945 and how the cultural impact that it had. And I just think that this, I love books like this. All right, and then the last one on my list that releases on March 16th is Across the Pond by Joy McCullough. And this is about a girl who ends up moving from San Diego to Scotland. And it gives her a chance to reinvent herself, and she gets to live in a real life castle. But as romantic as life in a castle sounds, the reality is a little less comfortable. It's run down, freezing, and crawling with critters. Plus, starting off on the wrong foot with the gardener's granddaughter doesn't help. So yeah, it's just about all this. She decides she's going to be homeschooled. Her parents agree, but she has to participate in a social activity. So yeah, she decides to join the birding club. There's the birds again. Sure, it sounds unusual, but at least it's not sports or performing. But then she clashes with the club leader, and she's just trying to find a place to fit in. So that is the last one. I just think it sounds so fun. So yeah, these are some of the books that I am looking forward to that are being released, middle grade books that are being released January, February, March of 2021. If any of these piqued your interest, let me know. I will try to link them down below. If there are pre-order links, I will link those down below. But yeah, I am just so excited for the books coming out this year. There are some really, really good ones. And I think after this last year, we could all use a little bit of good coming out, right? So, all right. I think that's going to do it for me for today. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.